Hey everybody, this is Scott, and we are one day closer to Civil War. Oh my God, what a week it has been. I was just about ready to go to production on a video which had everything to do with same-sex bathrooms. There's been some things happening this week, so I thought it would be a good time to revisit that and the whole situation with Target and what's going on with them. Well, hey, manna from heaven fell, baby, and Kathy Griffin happened. So I'm sure you have already seen ad nauseum what's been going on with her and the picture that now lives in infamy. Let's throw it up here in the background so you can take a look at that real quick. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So that's how this whole thing began this week. Of course, it's perfectly acceptable for a Democrat to put something like this into the public domain, but heaven forbid something like this would have ever happened with, you know, Barack Obama's head or anything of that nature. We couldn't have anything like that, right? Because that would be racist. That would be homophobic. That would be wrong. And it would be an endless barrage of bullshit coming from the left because Republicans are so evil. Um, but let's take a look at what Molly Ball said, who was in a panel that Jake Tapper was hosting on the Clinton News Network. And let's just take a look at this and see her reaction because that pretty much sums up the opinion of the left. All right, let's go. Molly.
I want to turn to another issue, kind of in the pop culture sphere. And I want to warn you out there, especially if you have kids, you might find what we're about to show you a little bit graphic. It's not an actual photograph, but let's show it to you now. It's a depiction of comedian Kathy Griffin, who does work for CNN on New Year's Eve. She's pictured in this new photo shoot holding a bloody Donald Trump head. It's pretty disgusting, and I can't imagine how anybody would think that's appropriate. But Donald Trump Jr. is out there saying this is now considered to be acceptable discourse by the left, Molly.
Who is saying it's acceptable discourse exactly?
Don Trump Jr. said that.
Who is saying it's even discourse? I mean, I have a hard time bringing myself to care about something like this. I think it just speaks to the need to see themselves as a victim that they have, that they're constantly being persecuted. It's constantly...
The Trumps you're talking about.
The Trump people are constantly having to point to the elites who are looking down on them. Of course, like, comedians and celebrities say dumb stuff and do dumb stuff, and violence is not appropriate. But I just don't think that that's the source of President Trump's problems.
Dave?
I think we've got much bigger issues to focus on than Kathy Griffin.
Jen, do you want to weigh in at all?
Agreed with Dave.
So as all this was unfolding, Donald Trump's son Barron was troubled, as we would expect, to see this image. He saw the image, didn't know what it was, where it came from, whether it was real or not, and went to his mom to find out what was going on. So once this got out that Barron was troubled by it, he was mocked by the left. I mean, unbelievable. So the good news here is that there actually have been some consequences. Squatty Potty has disassociated itself with Griffin, and CNN, believe it or not, has fired Kathy Griffin. So the left isn't completely out of control, but mostly out of control. So, like, believe it or not, there actually were some liberals who denounced it, and some heavy hitter liberals. So Chelsea Clinton actually came out against this, and so did Jake Tapper at CNN, as we saw in the clip here a little bit earlier. I mean, it's not what I would call we're not a football team yet, but at least there's a few people who obviously get it. But you know what? This is just another step in Trump Derangement Syndrome. I mean, let's take a look at what's been going on here. I mean, you think about Maxine Waters, who all she does every day is talk about impeachment and then tells us that she has no evidence or doesn't see that there's any evidence. The Democratic Party is drawing up impeachment papers. You've got the kids in New York City school system who turned their backs on Betsy DeVos when she went out there to talk to them. You have the graduates of Notre Dame University, who walked out on Mike Pence when the vice president gave the commencement address. I mean, each one of these things is another ratcheting up of the craziness on the left. They cannot get past the fact that Hillary Clinton lost the election, and so instead of just accepting it for what it is, all they do is come up with crazier and crazier schemes to try to legitimize it in their minds. And that's really all this is. So let's try to put some perspective into this here. So if you remember in the last election cycle, Sarah Palin got under intense heat for, and I'm not even a fan of Sarah Palin, so let's not even go there. But the Tea Party was trying to put some emphasis on certain congressional elections that were coming up. And so Sarah Palin had a website and they had a graphic made up which had crosshairs for each of those congressional districts which they wanted to fight over. And the crosshairs became this whole left issue in the fact that they were using crosshairs, which means we want to kill people. I mean, it was just trying to target the area that they were going to attack in the elections. We're trying to kill people. Clearly, that wasn't the issue. How about the rodeo clown who was attacked and ended up losing his job because he had an Obama mask on? I mean, right? I mean, that's just crazy. He's a rodeo clown. How about Mitt Romney trying to just simply say that he had a lot of women candidates who could fill positions in his administration if elected president, used the term binders of women. That became this huge issue to the left. You know, how dare you classify women in such a way, calling, mocking them and belittling them, that they're binders of women. You know, it's so ridiculous. It's so out of control. We all know the reality. We know what people are trying to say, yet they assign it these stupid, asinine, childish definitions that any sane person realizes is bullshit. But they continue with this, and the press just picks this up. And then look, this past week, the Indy 500, the Denver Post reporter, a gentleman by the name of Terry Fry, he wrote a tweet which basically said he was uncomfortable that an Asian man won the Indy 500 on the Memorial Day holiday. Now, okay, we could sit here and claim that that's insensitive, but his father died in Pearl Harbor, and it was something that just had affected him. He was fired for that tweet. Fired. Okay? So this is what we're talking about. This is the kind of bullshit that emanates and continues to permeate through the political discussion. We have people like Kathy Griffin, who goes out there and does this thing with this picture with this Trump head and thinks that that's okay. And yet little bullshit things like the Obama mask and like saying that a guy is troubled, maybe that an Asian man would win the Indy 500 on Memorial Day. Again, maybe these aren't the best things to say. Maybe, they're imperfections of the part of humans. But the scale at which these types of things are being used as clubs against the right versus the pure dishonesty that comes out of the left. I mean, come on. Look, it's clear to see what's going on here. So at the end of the day, what do we got? The left cannot make any kind of reasonable arguments for their ideas, nor can they defend any of the things they do, because everything they stand for is morally and intellectually bankrupt. And so this will continue to escalate, and it will continue to move the needle farther and farther away from what we would call normal or decent discourse, political discourse, where we can agree to disagree at times, where we can have ideas thrown into the middle, so to speak, and we can debate them. It's not like that anymore. And because of that, because of the fact that the left will continue to be unreasonable in their discussion and continue to go to places that is intellectually, morally, and at a sophistication level which is bankrupt, we are one day closer to civil war. I'll see you next time. Love you guys.